was still trying to edit William Aarons's ATA that he just popped in. I'm just going to say this as well, William Aarons. We're going in cold with that one. I didn't even do the spelling checks or everything. Great to see everybody. Charles Latora, I'm not sure if you're back from the grocery store yet. Corvinus Wargaming, great to see you. William Aarons, Chrispy Galactic, and Tolemykus. Hope you guys are all doing well. Here it is. We're still warm, but at least we've that horrible heat wave is broken. So it's just been wonderful. I've been spending a lot of mornings out in the sun there, and it's just been wonderful. Anyways, I'll pop on the narrative and away we go. Let's see what happens. Oh, great to see you, Brian R. Smith. Good morning, all. He says glorious day this morning in Montreal, but the heat is coming. Yeah. I guess I didn't check if it is coming, but I was just mentioning that it's just been wonderful here. Like even this morning, I think we got down to like 15 degrees when I got up this morning. It was just great. And Brian R. Smith, I did make you a Big Bertha bingo card. I'll have to get you one as well, Corvinus Wargaming. You didn't get a point this week for the battle. That's Sheremy's going to pop on over. Actually, you guys can't see her. Or him, she's over there. But anyways, let me go and share the screen. So we'll pop that so you guys can see. Well, is this the one I want? Yeah. So here we go for the narrative. And like I said, please let me know what you guys have been up to the past week, especially if it's gaming related. That would be super awesome. I don't know of anything for the live stream fact checker again. Oh, good morning, Meandering Mike. Great to see you. Hope you're doing well. Last week, as we know, it was the Battle of Verdun. Oh, yeah. Speaking of which, with the Battle of Verdun, I think that's going to be, I'll take a look at when the end of it, it's somewhere in the fall. And I thought maybe that'll be the end of round 3. I thought that would be half decent. I did pop in the points. Oh, there you are, Charles Latora. You just made it in. Wicked. Who or what am I in World War I trivia? We can obviously do that. There's the round 1 champion, Meandering Mike. Round 2 champion is Tolemykus. And here's the points so far that we've got after, I guess, the first round, which was last week the first thing for round 3. Corvinus Wargaming, you're up, and Meandering Mike just right behind. But I mean, it's super early days, as we know. And thank you yet again, William Aarons, for like I've said before, if you never do it again, it doesn't matter. Like, it's been unbelievable, the amount of stuff that you've been doing for us. So you did pop in the ATA, plus you popped in a bazillion pictures. And one of them, guys, it's kind of like icing on the cake. That's what I mentioned to you last night, William Aarons, was one of the pictures. The last one I'm going to show is you playing a game, which I thought was like wicked. Pinup Gal and the Guy of the Week, almost. I had a guy set up, but I just didn't have enough. I just didn't get into it. We're going to kind of continue on with Limanova, the Battle of Limanova. Remember, we were talking a little bit about it last week when Meandering Mike mentioned that it was one of the easier later scenarios to pick up for the Red Poppies when we were looking at it that way. So I thought, well, why not continue on with that? I took a look at this one, and it's interesting. I don't know if it ever got published, this one from Gladiator Games, but I went to their website, and you're able to download free the print and play version and the rules and whatnot. So I thought, okay, why not? And it's very miniature related, but we'll take a look at it. I thought, why not? And here we go with the, I guess if you want to call it the current event-y type stuff or whatever I want to yabber on about. Very quickly, I thought it was kind of ironic. Well, you're going to see. It's. I mean, they love playing with the play on words here. National World War I Museum and Memorial News. One thing I found interesting, I was noticing the last time I saw the news, is they stopped doing the mystery picture of the month. I thought that was, I was like, geez, turning into me kind of thing, saying, having one thing, all of a sudden it just vanishes, a lot of orphans or whatever. I do want to mention that Lancashire Games, remember they're a miniature manufacturer in England. Their summer sale's about to end. They're now more or less, great to see you, Kilroy was here. This is your first time, as far as I know. Wonderful to see you. Hope you're doing well. Anyways, I just wanted to mention them just due to the fact they're now essentially my favorite miniature manufacturing. They've got some good lines out there. I've got a ton. They're relatively inexpensive too, to be honest with you. They have a huge range of of miniatures. But ever since Magister Militum basically is gone, I'm like, mind you, I haven't painted a miniature in God knows how long. The Merchant Submarine Deutschland, 1916. This is just that I did find very, very quick. It's only like about a minute and a half video, so hopefully we'll just watch a few seconds and not get in trouble copyright-wise. And you get to see Captain Koenig and actually like moving around. He's on a car, big smiles and everything. I thought was kind of neat. And that was brought by Historic Films. And I just wanted to also mention them. I'm not sure, like said, oh, if you want to go and license some stuff and whatnot, and are you a researcher and this, that, and the other thing, they wanted all kinds of information and someone would contact you if you want. I was thinking, well, let's find out. I want to find out if I can get anything free. And if that's the case, certainly would like to sign up for something at some point. That'd be kind of neat. And like I said, William Aarons sent in a bunch of pictures, which was, we're going to look at them. Then the Austro-Hungarian ultimatums to Serbia, the English translation. If you want to see the full text and not just the points of the ultimatum, I popped it in the sources and links there if you want to look at the full on. Also, I did want to mention my community tab. I'm not sure how many people know that. I post every single day on the community tab. So if you're interested, I do like World War I image of the day, daily headlines, like a follow along. Well, this is where I'm getting the war summary and all that type of stuff. And right now, up to August 4th, I'm doing the lead up to Great Britain declaring war, essentially. And right now, it's just going berserk. Of course, you know, as you can imagine, I mean, the ultimatum has already been released. Serbia has rejected it, and everybody is now scrambling to get ready here. The Battle of Limanova, like I said, I wouldn't mind very quickly talk about that. I also have a link here in the sources and links. It's just like a little quick 2-minute thing. This guy called Things You Should Know or something. He's pretty good. I like him. The Gladiator Games site, like I mentioned, if we don't get to it, at least it's in the sources and links that you can go and take a look and go on if you want to download that game free. Go for it. Tolemykus says the day the war went berserk. Yeah. Consume news for World War I. I do want to pop on over, if I can, very quickly. I'd like to go take a look at that. There's a book by Hexasim or something, but it also looks like a game, but it's on Gallipoli or something like that. This is just Mobile Frame Zero, completely unrelated to the Great War. It's just about Lego, like mechs kind of thing, but it's very low. Like you can use anything you want. I played that a few years ago at Can Games. It was something I was bringing up to my colleague, and I thought I wanted to mention it to you guys as well. I was farting around on Kobo because they sent me a 25% off coupon or whatever, and I was just looking around. I don't know if you guys know about this, but I'm interested in Great War fiction. This one was like, what in the world? It's part of a series. I don't know if you guys know about Harry Turtledove, but this one is Great War #1, the American Front, and it's on the heels of the Confederates winning the Civil War. And I don't know, I think they're in the alliance with Great Britain and France, and the Union are actually in alliance with Germany or something crazy. I was just like, whoa. Anyways, I wanted to bring that up to you guys. Seminal Catastrophe, the Imperial World War at 1850-1920 by VUCA Simulations. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because Harold Bosman's not here again today, due to the fact that he's trained into like a little barbecue king. He's having another barbecue event at his house. Oh, it's summertime, like Eric Goebel was mentioning. But Harold Bosman has said, hey, I don't know if you know about this game, but it's on in development section at VUCA Simulations. So I went off to the VUCA Simulations site, not just the BGG link that he sent to me. And I hopefully will get to that as well, because this is the first time I got to see that 1916 Prelude to Blitzkrieg is listed on the VUCA Simulation site. Then there was another sweetie about Merchant, a game coming up in development on Merchant rating and whatnot. I was just like, oh my Lifton, do I ever want to have that game? The World's War by David Olasuga. Very quickly, hopefully we'll get to it. Yet again, I did a scan of one of the page of one of the books. So maybe I want to read it out a little bit. It's really enticing. It was about part of that group from the Intelligence Bureau of the East going across Persia into Afghanistan to try to cause a lot of grief and get them to rebel, and also cause some grief in India. And I thought, well, I like the way the guy writes, and I just would like to bring it up if you guys are also interested. The West African Challenged Empire, Culture and History in the Voltabani Anti-Colonial War. This is that book here. I picked it up. I think I've mentioned it to you, and I've got it in the sources and links. I don't know if we're going to get to it, but at least I want to mention that the book's there. And then, like I said, we'll get to the regular stuff, the week that was, the Globe's summary, and so on and so forth. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to just make me. I don't have to get rid of the full-on thing, which is great. And now we'll go off to the who or what am I in World War I? And I'll give you your first clue. And remember, you just get a point even for guessing. If it's incorrect, you get a point. It doesn't matter. That's why a lot of people, AKA Meandering Mike, I'm not saying he obviously gets some of them right. I'm just saying he's a serial guesser, is what I'm trying to say. All right, so here we go. Here's your first clue. I was used in the Napoleonic Wars, but later abandoned. Who or what am I? And I'll put that in the comments as well. And I've got to remember, I keep doing this. I almost blurred out the title of the file that I saved this stuff in. Tolemykus says signal tower. Interesting, but you are incorrect. And that's what I was mentioning too with Zoe Dufour earlier in the week. Is that I love a lot of it's just amazing the way people's brains. Cheerios, you son of a bee. Meandering Mike mentioned somebody gets a point. So there you go. I'm going to put that in. Interesting that you mentioned Cheerios, though, Meandering Mike, because I've been watching in Flanders Field there that I was saying, and part of the supplies or aid being sent from the United States to Belgium or whatever are cornflakes, and they don't even know what the hell cornflakes are. Okay, so hold on here. Tolemykus says civility and signal tower. You are incorrect on both counts. Corvinus Wargaming says margarine, and you are incorrect. And there you go. I'm going to pop you there. William Aaron says Congreve rockets. Ooh, I like that. That is awesome. But you are incorrect. And there you are. And did I miss every? No, I got to give me like one of Cheerios. One son of a bee. All right, and I'll give you your second clue. So many did not believe in me during much of the Great War. Who or what am I? Meandering Mike says Channel Crossing Wales. You are incorrect. And where I get you there? And Chrispy Galactic says an automatic weapon. You are incorrect, but you're getting a point. I don't know where the heck you are. I just have to put you here. Hold on here. Chrispy. There we go. And Tolemykus says peace. Nice one, but you are also incorrect. Meandering Mike says Peter Pan, and he is also incorrect. Let me put it in the comments, even though I don't think I need to do that. We're going to go off to the third one. I'm amazed no one's got this yet. Brian R. Smith says mortar artillery. Nice one, but you are also incorrect. Now I see why I don't see Chrispy Galactic. Brian R. Smith and Chrispy Galactic are on the same line here. Corvinus Wargaming says grenades. No, you are incorrect. Chrispy Galactic says engine. You are incorrect. But you guys are zipping around here. Okay, hold on here. I'm not going to put it in the comments because you guys are already going a mile a minute here. So I'm going to put it in here. The Australians and Japanese used me though. Who or what am I? And I'll put that in the. I will put that one in the comments because I can get you ahead of time. I think. Yep. Hold on here. Oh, nice. Hold on. It's going to be very interesting when you guys finally see the answer or whatever, whoever gets it. Tolemykus says cavalry. You are incorrect. Hold on, but you're getting some points like there's no tomorrow. William Aarons says pikes. You are also incorrect, but thank you for guessing. That's for bloody sure. Another one there. Charles Latora says shotguns. No, you are incorrect. Meandering Mike says boomerangs. He is also incorrect. Oh, I like it though, because that makes sense that you would have said that because of the Australians. Just clued into that now. So here's here's the next banner. My motto is strength in numbers. Who am I? Who or what am I should say. And I'll put that one in. We've only got two more clues after this. And I'll pop that in the comments if I can. Oh, it keeps doing that funky thing. Wow, I'm amazed no one's nailed it yet. Tolemykus says charges. Whoa, that is like Meandering Mike, trench hopping kangaroos. That sounds like something straight out of Never Going Home RPG. But you are incorrect. Yeah, maybe they did if they did an Australian version of it. But you are incorrect. But you're up. You got 5 points so far. This whatever. Tolemykus also gets 5 points with charges and is also incorrect. Corvinus Wargaming says bayonet charges. You're going to get a point, but you are incorrect. Great to see you, Hissy Cat. Hope you're doing well. William Aaron says formation in ranks, and so does Tolemykus. You're both going to get a point. Unfortunately, you're both incorrect. Hold on here. And I got to find you, Tolemykus again. Geez, you're going a mile a minute here. Okay. Hissy Cat says air war. You're going to get a point, but you are incorrect. And number 5. Here we go. This one, I think you guys are going to go, aha. Okay, now we're getting here. So here it is. The next one is, the British finally saw the good in me, and I really came into my own in 1917. Who or what am I? You didn't get it yet, huh? Well, I'm going to have to grab the 6th one. And then we'll go from there. I'm waiting. Brian R. Smith says the bayonet. You are incorrect, but you're getting a point for sure. Kilroy was here says, oh my gosh, yeah, of course you're going to get your first one here. Carnivorous pigeons, good Lord. Kilroy was here. You are incorrect, but you're going to get a point. Charles Latora says kamikazes. You're going to get a point. Chrispy Galactic says ambulance. Nice one, but you are incorrect as well. I have to give Meandering Mike a bloody point. William Aaron says balloons. You are also incorrect, but you're getting one. Tolemykus says messengers. You're also getting one. Here's your last one. I was essential to the safety of American troops being brought to Europe. Who or what am I? And I'm just going to leave it here because I think this is going to be like a time thing. Whoever is able to hit the return key quicker. Chrispy Galactic says rockets. You are incorrect, but you're going to get a point. All right. Hissy Cat says, yep. You're both going to get a point, but you're both incorrect, and so is Tolemykus. He's also going to get a point. How am I going to do this? I'll leave it alone for a little while and see if someone rummages into their heads. Tolemykus, you're going to get a point. You are also incorrect. Meandering Mike says stick pillows. Brian R. Smith gets it. Kaboom! Thank you, Brian R. Smith. Convoys. Yes, the convoy system. Well done, man. Thank you. And I can get rid of the banner. Hold on here. Yep, you got it. Now let's go take a look at some pictures. Meandering Mike says Q-ship, which is part of the convoy system. And we're going to take a look at some pictures because I really like them. So thanks a lot for doing that, guys. Awesome. Yeah, I didn't want to. Yeah, that would have been 2 we would have had that didn't go here. So hold on here. Let me get some nice pictures or someone here. Stop the screen, and now I'm going to present this one. So these are scans from 2 books that I have. Convoys equals ships, yeah, but they also brought their ship. I mean, they were also bringing Hissy Cat. They were also bringing. They didn't need to use a convoy to bring their ships across. That's what I mean. That's why I was like, yeah. So don't you start getting with me. Hold on here. Okay, you guys can see that. I'll make it the other way. There we go. So this is a scan from Martin Gilbert's Atlas of World War One, I do believe it's called. Meandering makes this, am I a serial guesser or a serial guesser? Well, sometimes probably both, I would assume, based on your eating habits. So there we go. Just wanted to show you that, like, there you go. You're going to see some nicer pictures in a minute, especially when we go about how the convoy system works. But it was just here, the extreme danger to Britain of Germany's U-boat sinkings of merchant ships 1916 to 1917 led to the introduction of the convoy system in June 1917. 16,539 ships were escorted in convoy across the ocean, of which only 154 were torpedoed, which is pretty amazing. Hissy Cat says, go to instant replay. Oh. Well, I will say this, Hissy Cat, you're a bloody gamer, that's for sure, because you're competitive. Let's look at it that way. So I'm gonna, darn it, how am I gonna do this one? If I display options to the height, nah, that's not very good either. Let's go back to the other way, and I'll just scroll across, and hopefully you guys can quickly see this. Corvinus Wargaming says, convoy duty is a premise of one of the Aubrey Multeret novels. Now I get the Napoleonic clue. There you go. Destroyer with the equipment, which I really found this one interesting. You're going to see in a minute, but it's much better, a much better one from the other book that I'm scanning from. Had equipment which could detect the sound of a submarine's engine. That I found interesting. I was like, wow, I didn't know they were that far advanced into that type of stuff. Cruiser with the commander of the convoy directing its speed and course. And you guys probably know that that was one of the, well, we'll find out in a minute. You see in the later on is one of the things that a lot of the naval people were really against was the fact that they thought the convoy system would be a waste of naval assets. And secondly, it would give their battleships, they would become a target themselves. And thirdly, that they were always like, oh, we have to go to the slowest ship and we're way faster. Of course, eventually they figured out, hey, let's all get all the same all the ships at the same speed in one convoy, and so on and so forth. The torpedo boat, this is what I found really neat, was with an aerial balloon in whose basket observers could look down on the convoy and detect underwater submarines and torpedo tracks. Like I said, we're going to go just very quickly here, and then they showed the hulls are painted with various camouflage designs. I guess that part of that razzle-dazzle thing maybe. And that they also had sometimes a straggler that would, Meandering Mike says, wow, didn't realize there were over 20 books on that series. Of what? That Confederate thingamajig? Or the one Corvinus Wargaming is mentioning. So here we're going to go to the next bit here. So this is from the World War I Illustrated Atlas. I would like, okay, thank you. Oh, good morning, Zoe Dufort. Great to see you. Okay, the Aubrey, actually, Corvinus Wargaming, you could probably help us or help me pronounce that second name would be great. Typical convoy plan of 1917. Yeah, and there's that little, there's the straggler, your Q ship, Meandering Mike. There it is, a Q ship, a merchant ship with concealed guns posing as a convoy straggler. And there's the U-boat off to the side, shadows the enemy. I wouldn't mind reading this very quickly if you don't mind. The Allies debated using convoys to protect shipping across the Atlantic. Merchant ships would cross as a group with warships for escorts. Submarines, the theory went, would not surface if they ran the risk of being sunk by enemy destroyers. Corvinus Wargaming says, Maturin, how about that? Many senior naval strategists objected to convoys as misuse of naval assets. They argued that convoys only provided submarines with larger target sets and made the warships themselves targets. Convoys also had to move, by definition, at the speed of the slowest ship, thus negating the advantages of the faster ships. Oh, thank you. Convoys also tended to overwhelm port facilities when the ships arrived en masse. These problems notwithstanding, the Allies had no choice but to turn to convoys because of the enormous losses of the U-boats were inflicting. The Allies solved the problem of speed by grouping ships together into convoys by speed. Slow ships sailed with other slow ships, and fast ships sailed with other fast ships. Warships warship escorts began to train their men in how to spot U-boats by looking for the wake of the periscopes. Some escort vessels carried observation balloons with men inside scanning the sea with binoculars. That must have been wild to be, what a job that must have been. I mean, as in cold and not very fun. Brian R. Smith says, first book in the series is Master and Commander, turned into a very good movie. I totally agree. That was wicked movie. The convoy system success. Convoys drastically reduced the losses of merchant ships to U-boats. Although many admirals still resisted devoting their valuable ships to such an unglamorous mission, they could not argue with its results. And I specifically just wanted you guys to see the graph at the bottom here. But I was like, well, I mean, while I've already got it out here, you might, I'll get rid of me so you can see more of the image. It didn't really seem to do all that much, did it? But anyways, it's more for the graph down here, just to show you the shipping losses once the convoy system kicked in. You can certainly see that it dropped like a stone. Pretty impressive. Okay, and I think that's the last one I have of that one. So I'm going to get rid of that for now. Was it? Yep, it was. Okay. Let me go to the narrative because I don't know what the heck I'm supposed to be talking about. Well, we got 26 minutes and I want to make sure that we get to the proper stuff. Let's go to the VUCA simulations site super duper quick and stare at those beautiful games that are about to pop up. Then we can go to William Aarons's pictures and we'll trundle on down that way, I think is a great way to do it. Oh my God, I haven't even done the Big Bertha bingo. Well, guess what? I was like, I might as well be smart about this. And since we're talking about the Battle of Limanova, might as well bring her in. And so that's it. It's number 14, 1914, the Battle of Limanova. I have no idea. I can't remember who. I think one person had it on their bingo card. I'll have to take a look later. But that was that. Let me go to the links. So that way I can make sure that we can... Oh my God! I so wish we get to talk about the Callendale. Look, I think I've mentioned this before. I've watched Callendale's Der Weltkrieg video so many flipping times, it's not funny. Especially the very first two ones where he goes into the intro or whatever. Anyways, earlier in the week, I wanted to assemble a list of everybody that has done a Der Weltkrieg video, even if it's unboxing, taking a look at, aka Hissy Cat, looking at the introductory scenario to Tannenberg, that type of stuff. I have B14. Okay, good. Okay, then now you were the only person, therefore, that got that number. I knew there was at least one person that got it. Anyway, so I was going to write down the list of everybody who's done, like Meandering Mike. There's See It Play, Jezza One, Hex to Hex, on Jeepers Jumpin', Justagard, all that stuff. So if anybody wanted to, like for example, Brian R. Smith is just about to get going full on with Der Weltkrieg. I thought, hey man, maybe this will help to have a nice little whatever. He was quite critical of the system, if I recall. Yes. But I listened to or watched the review again, and watched earlier this week his review, and hopefully we'll quickly go to the 13th minute. Man, what a good comprehensive review! I'll be honest with you. He's critical or whatever, but from my point of view, he knows what he's talking about. I do have to remind myself though that he is not playing the Sterling edition rules, so that could skew some of the things a little bit. But anyways, I think Callendale was using it. Yeah, exactly. Bingo, bongo. What did I say we were going to go to? Oh, yeah, we're going to look at the VUCA simulations thing. Hold on here. And let me pop it in. Oh, my God. We didn't even get to the National World War. Okay, we'll do that super quick because it's already here. I'm just going to have I had a good little laugh. Meandering makes a squirrel. Yeah, you know it. I'm like that is. I'm like the light on the wall, man, like a dog. It's ridiculous. So here we go. I just thought this was funny. I was like, say what? So so that's there. I guess there's going to be a thing. I didn't know anything about cannabis or whatever. What was going on with World War I? but there's obviously something about it. Like I said, they wanted to have a little bit of the play on words here, a blunt history of cannabis since World War One. I love this on the right-hand side. No cannabis products will be on site for consumption or sale. I just got a good laugh reading this. I guess they had to put in some kind of crazy disclaimer. But it's $45 per person on Thursday, August 15th. Holy jeepers jumping. I don't know what in the world's going on with that, but I thought that was pretty darn expensive. Charles Latora says, I've got 3 games ready to play. I want. Excellent. So let's pop in the VUCA simulations thing. And I want to look at this, what's coming. Oh my God. No, thanks. We'll just stay here. So like I said, I saw, well, oh yeah, here we go. In development. And I was like, wow, is it ever nice to see Paul Hederer's game listed there? There it is, guys. 1916 Prelude to Blitzkrieg. And there's the other one that, this game that Harold Bosma was mentioning, Seminole Catastrophes, a card-driven game that blends diplomacy, warfare, and statecraft. Players take control of one of 6 unique major powers in the game. And it's from 1839 all the way to 1929. That would be, oh, jeepers jumping. This one knocked me sideways. I went, oh my God, I saw this and I went, thank you, Harold Bosma, for mentioning that game to go take a look at. And then I was like, okay, let's go and take a look at the VUCA site. And then I went, oh my, look at this. The Far Seas, a 2-player game depicting the hunt for merchant raiders at the start of World War One. The map shows the whole world. The objective is to sink the German raiders or to attack convoys and avoid the hunters. The German player plots his movement, then the British player moves, and then the German player reveals and makes his moves. That sounds like a hell of a lot of fun to me. So we did that. What did I... look, Charles Latora says, I have 3 games set up and ready to start playing. Avalon Hills, Air Assault on Crete, yes. Malta's and OSG's Gross Buren from 4 Lost Battles. That'll be, I have no idea about that, so that'll be neat to find out about. What did I say we were going to look at? Oh, yeah, William Aarons' pictures. Hold on here. Let's get to that. I've got to get them out, though. And do I have, yep, I'll have to just read this off to the side. How am I going to do that? I'll figure out something. And I'll put in normal view, I think. Please let me know if you find it too small or whatever. I'll try to do what I can. And now I'm going to get rid of me completely so that way you can see the picture properly. Charles Latora says, I have the map for Lyros from Legion, just have not touched the rule book yet or playbook. Yeah, I don't know about you, Charles Latora, but my God, Legion war games do seem like they've got their rules seem hard to digest, at least for me. So this says, you guys can see that it's a tree planted in a small park named Queen's Circle in Crystal Beach, Fort Erie, to honor those who served in World War One. And there it is. And then we're going to go to the next one. There, well, there's the same tree, but it's yeah, it's just, it looks like it just got planted like last year, I would assume, or maybe this year, based on the amount of rain we've been having. This is a metal bench at Waterfront Park, Crystal Beach, Fort Erie, dedicated to the memory of all veterans. I really like this. Oh, yeah, this is that other thing you were saying. I spent another day in Simcoe, the country seat of Norfolk County, which is a present population of 65,000. There were probably much fewer people here during the World Wars, but great sacrifices were made by that small, mainly rural number of loyal subjects of the British Empire and citizens of Canada. Gamers with Coffee Ashley is in the house. Yes, you are. And great to see you. Charles Latora says, as soon as I have space, I promise a World War One game. Hey, man, we're going to be here for the long haul, so no worries there. They were remembered by this tower, and we're about to find out, see this tower, I hope, or I got him at it. There it is. Look, oh, what a sweet! I love the other shot of the sideways thing here. Maybe I'll just go through the things, and then we can take a look quickly. Look at the things here. They're remembered by this tower on the corner of Norfolk Street North and Wilson Drive, next to the Simcoe Composite School, which is that I guess that little fenced-in area we saw between Grant Anderson Wellington Park and Linwood Park. Besides having the name of Norfolk's War Memorial, it is also listed as the Carillon Tower on the map of Simcoe, and it also serves as the town's clock tower. Here are a few pictures of the tower and its surroundings. Across from the memorial is a lawn bowling green, that must have been that fenced-in area. In this picture, being maintained by workers, nearby is a raft of ducks swimming in the calm Lynn River. There are plaques on the tower, the first one that memorialized those soldiers from the county who served in World War I. One without killing bees, Charles. Charles Latora says, yes, got the 4 to choose from, I do believe. Okay, let's take a look at the other shots. There's that ducks on the Lynn River you were saying, and there's that Bowling Green area, and there's that Carillon Tower, all the names. And you see I can do some funky stuff with that. I love this this application. iFrame View, what a beautiful, free too, man. The things you can do with it is just nuts. Okay, so that's the school. And there's the names again. And this is those that laid the world away, poured out the red sweat wine of youth, sweet wine of youth, gave up the years to be of work and joy, and that unhoped serene that men call age. And those who would have been their sons, they gave their immortality. Rupert Brooke. I wonder who that person is. So that's a board of, okay. And this is World War II. While the rivers run to the ocean and the shadows move in the mountain valleys and the sky feeds the stars, always will your honor and your name and your glory remain. Virgil. Neat. And that's the, and I think you did have a little bit more here. Here I'm attempting to, oh yeah, no, we're almost there. Here are plaques dedicated to the Norfolk 133rd Battalion in World War I, a soldier who fell in Afghanistan, and a side view of the tower with both of its clocks. All right, and see if I can, I just really like that. I really like that shot for some reason. And now the best for last, which I think is great. Here I am attempting to play the alt history game, A Cornered Wolf by Paul Robrack with my new friend John. It's a little tricky game about Soviet paratroopers intervening during the July 20th plot against Hitler. We did not go far because we were stumbling through the rules. At least we tried. You look like you're having a fun time. Well, both of you actually. So thank you so much for sharing that, Charles Latora. William Aarons. I'm looking at Charles Latora's comment when I said that. So thank you very much for doing that. I'm going to take a look quickly and see what in the world else I have listed here. Okay, we got 20 minutes. We're doing pretty darn good. Oh yeah, we've still got your ATA. Let me have a sip of water for a second. And then we're going to go to the, let's go to the week that was. We'll get that out of the way, kind of, and because it's a little bit too close to the after hours war summary, the same type of information. So I thought, and like I said, some people don't stay for the after hours, so I might as well get this. It's more or less like a condensed version if you want to look at it that way. Okay, so here we go. And there you are. All right, got you in there. July 20, and I'm just going to get rid of this. William Aarons says, the one plaque is dedicated to those students of the Simcoe High School who died in World War I. Thank you, William Aarons, for being specific about that. Thanks, man. July 21st, British continue their advance to Bois de Fourreau. Germans counterattack and regain some ground. Heavy bombing attacks by the enemy south of Thiepval on the Leipzig redoubt. French repulse counterattacks on their new front at Soicourt, south of the Somme. Russians drive the Austro-Germans over the River Styr, taking 14,000 prisoners. On the 22nd, British attack along the whole front from Pozières to Guillemot with violent fighting reported. French airplanes bomb Mulheim and other German towns. Austrians, retreating before Sakharov, begin to evacuate Brody. Italian success in the Dolomites. Italians take and consolidate the Roll Pass. General Maxwell's dispatches on the Irish rebellion are published in the Times. The Silver Badge is granted for those disabled. July 23rd, Mr. Sakharov, Russian foreign minister, resigns and is succeeded by Mr. Sturmer, who's also, I think, we'll find out. I think he's also still the premier or something like that. Running fight in North Sea near mouth of Scheldt between British ships and 6 enemy destroyers with no decisive results. The naval force occupies the Pangani in East Africa. Russians steadily close in on Erzingen. The Turks begin a large retreat. Kuropatkin's troops drive the Germans back southeast of Riga. Germans advance 12 miles near Kerman. Second phase of the Somme battle begins. Intense fighting in and around Pozières. British recapture whole of Longueval, but Germans retake the north end of the village. Outskirts of Guillemont twice change hands. The 24th, struggle for Pozières continues. British gain some important positions for the taking of Pozières. Persistent German counterattacks at Highwood and Guillemont. Near Estrée, French capture an enemy battery. French take a redoubt west of Thiaumont, southwest of Douaumont. Corvinus Wargaming says it's like Erzincan. Thank you. Because I've been saying Gan, I guess, or something. Thanks, man. Russians repulsed from, help me with that one, to Riga. Italian advance continues on the Asiago Plateau and the Trentino border. After a night attack, the Italian troops capture Monte Sismone. In East Africa, General Northey defeats southern detachment at Malangali. Germans are driven towards Iringa. Vote of credit for £450 million is moved in the Commons. Meandering makes us our resident Turkish expert. You 100%, man. I'm so flippin' grateful for that. It's not funny. Seeing Turkish names is just a J sound. Thanks. Here we go. British memorandum, and it was neat. William Aaron's very, very ultra quick when I was looking at your ATA. Like I said, I didn't have time to, I was doing it 4 minutes in before. Didn't even have time to do spell check. But I could see that you were talking a bit about money, which is nice because, well, there's been a lot of crazy nonsense going on, as we know. Like it went up to 6% interest rate in England. A lot of grumbling going on about that. British memorandum in reply to the American complaints regarding censorship of neutral males is published. On the 25th, the protest of Mr. Girard, USA ambassador, against inhumanity at the Rulabin camp is published in the Times. Let's see if I can say it. Capture of Erzincan by Russians. Erzincan formed the advanced base for Turkish operations on the Caucasus front. The reconstituted Serbian army comes into action on the Salonika front against the Bulgarians. Sakharov again attacks Austrians east of Stier and advances against Brody. Defeats von Linsingen on the river Slanuvka. With fresh reinforcements, the Germans counterattack near Longueval and Bazentin, but are repulsed. Pozières almost entirely in British hands. Thank you, Corvinus Wargaming. It's getting better. British push along Albert Bapon Road towards Hill 160. I will say this on a side note. If you go take a look at the things you should know guy, he says, you know, he goes like a little bit of a disclaimer at the beginning. He's like, you know, here I put in my sources at the very end. And by the way, I have a gift of mispronouncing everything. And so it was neat. I was like, yeah, I'm right beside you, man. French progressed south of Estrée and north of Vermont-de-Vie. In Alsace, a sharp attack north of Altkirch is repulsed. The whole of Pozières on the 26th village is in British hands. Remember, they were saying a couple of days ago the British had started taking important positions to finally take the whole place. British advance continues northwards towards Hill 160. I just got to say this, though. Every time I keep reading this, I'm like, can this be incorporated into Soldiers game, man? Oh, French capture fortified houses south of Estrée. British-Italian car raid from Somme. That would be neat to find out about. Admiral Bacon's report on work of Dover Patrol, published in the Times. Mesopotamia and the Dardanelles Commission's names of members are announced. Lord G. Hamilton and Lord Cromer, respective chairman. The 27th of July, I'd like to find out about this person for sure. Captain, I don't know how to say his thing, and it's just was too late. I was like, I don't have time to go and look for him. Of the GE liner Brussels is court-martialed and shot by German authorities in Belgium for an attempt to ram a German submarine. Woof. Russians advance towards Sivas, west of Erzincan. A Turkish attack near Mosul is also repulsed. And Yanbo, part of Medina, is captured by the Grand Sharif of Mecca. Meandering Mike says, make your own scenario for SPI Soldiers for Hill 160. Yeah, well, as you know, it probably just means sit down and actually do some hard work, a bit of research. Write it down, rather than just go, gee, I wish. Exactly. You know what? Shaw's equals Charles. Thank you, Charles Latora, who should probably know. Thanks to you, I now have 6 World War I games, William Aaron says, including Court of Master General, World War I, Path of Glory, The Pursuit of Glory, Great War, 1916, Verdun, Battle of Attrition, and The Rock of the Marne. Ooh, you do have that one, eh? Interesting. Turks and Germans, because I do. Remember Hex to Hex, lovely man, sent it to me. Turks and Germans begin, SCS system or whatever? Turks and Germans begin to move from the Katia line. Hostile airplanes to drop bombs in Berry or Toronto. Sakharov, I'm going with it, Charles Latora. Sakharov reaches Kletov position, which is within 5 miles of Brody. Oh, we still got tons of time. Fresh British gains at Deville Wood and near Pozier. Fighting continues at Longueval. French make progress east of Estrée. Germans make 2 strong attacks on the French center at Villaubois, north of Ain, and in Champagne, west of Prosnay. Or Pros. No, I don't know about that one. Okay, so I can get rid of the week. Let's go to the ATA. Just give me a second here to give me a little bit of a... Yeah, I'm just saying, Meandering Mike, every time I look at that map upstairs, even Zoe Dufour was looking at it yesterday, and she's like, oh, this is a nice looking map. I'm just like, oh, could this town be this? And I mean, we're reading about this all this time, all these little things, in Verdun and whatnot, and the Somme, and I'm just like, they just seem small enough areas to go, and I'm like, gosh, I'd like to give it a shot. All right, so here we go. William Aarons with your ATA. Like I said, no spell checks, so we're just going to go through it, and that's life. This is from the issue of the German East African Zeitung from the 25th July 1916. Yet again, super duper happy that you're able to find information like publications from non-European sources. Is great. Above the article was the various prices for the paper. The cost was in rupees in the colony and in marks outside. This meant that the East German colony was using the rupee, the currency of British India, as legal currency even during the war. Wow, nice. The rate of exchange had been set at 15 rupee to 20 Reichsmark in 1904, which was changed to a 1-for-1 parity in 1916. A translation of that price list is as follows. Purchase price in Dar es Salaam, 4.5 rupees for a 3-month subscription. For other parts of East Africa, 5.5 rupees. For Germany and other German colonies, 6.67 marks for 3 months. For every other country, half yearly, 12 marks. The official advertiser can be purchased for a year for 8 rupees or 12 marks. Subscription orders for other countries for the DOA Zeitung and its editorial pages are to be directed either to the business office in Dar es Salaam or its office in Berlin, District 11. The 29th for those nations that currently accept and receive mail from and to any and all German Austro-Hungarian post offices. Wow. It's just a gold mine of stuff you find, man. It's just awesome. Translator's note, I find it interesting how the Zeitung's business was trying to be conducted in such a regular way during the course of the World War. Somehow news of the European fronts made its way to the colony, perhaps by telegraph and telephone lines that were still in operation or by wireless telegraphy. More likely news came via those neutral countries with which the colony still had contact. Tolemykus says, can we still get it at this prices? Yeah. German East Africa News, 25th July, 1916. The official news reports from the European theaters of war, the great headquarters. I said this before. I just flippin' love the way they put that in all the time, the great headquarters. It just sounds so cool. Western Theater of War. The reports yesterday of an English attack in the vicinity of Fromelles on the 19th of July is, as it would put out, led by 2 divisions at a sector of the front of more than 2,000 meters. This, I'm really happy you found, William Aarons, due to the fact that it is mentioned. I'm going to be mentioning it in the after hours in the war summary of the Battle of Fromelles, due to the fact this is the Australians. They get their arses kicked, as far as I remember. And in the war summary, they're like, oh, of course. Remember, they're trying to, minimize it. And they're like, oh, the Germans said that, the Australians got their arses kicked. And it's like, oh, they couldn't possibly know that. And it's like, well, as far as they know, they did. That'll be a fact-checking thing I'll have to do later on. At this action, 481 prisoners and 16 machine guns were taken. On both sides of the Somme, enemy positions were disrupted by German artillery fire. On other parts of the front, targets were furiously smashed due to the absolutely fearless and dutiful actions of our troops that created greater than usual losses for the enemy. Also, for the entire war, we have not been surprised by an attack of English horse cavalry. Here, there were 17 officers and around 1,200 soldiers taken as prisoners. Eastern Theater of War. The Army Group of General Field Marshal von Hindenburg. Southeast of Riga, the enemy could make only weak attempts to attack that could not stand. Russian attempts to set up positions on both sides of the I'm going to say Vina were disrupted. Great headquarters, 23rd of July. In the Somme region, our opponents, I'm going to go with that one. I'm trying to think of what it was around there. After their losses and defeats in the previous days, yesterday had to forego any further attacks. Some of their advance units are either refusing to move forward or have been already suppressed. An English position was cleaned out of the Forêt forest, where we took 12 men prisoners and 16 machine guns. On both sides of the Meuse, the artillery has risen up in greater activity at this time. Earlier today, a French attack on Fleury was wrecked. A patrol north of Saint-Dié took 14 French officers. Our aircraft was active both day and night. Enemy aircraft have made only slight damage to our military assets. On the other hand, the civilian population suffered. In Lone, a woman was seriously wounded and 3 children were killed. Eastern Theater of War. On the streets of Eylau-Ratel, the Brandenburger Regiment defied again the strong and heavy assault of Russian weapons that in the afternoon began again and lasted late into the night. It was finally broken with heavy losses for the enemy. There are reports of naval actions from Lloyd's. The British steamer Virginia, of 4,700 tons, was sunk with 47 men taken to Malta. Out of Lovestaff Lloyd's reported 3 fishing boats were sunk and the crews taken to land. Is this like a Lloyd's? Do they mean like an insurance thingamajig or something like that? Or is this some kind of like that type of report? Reuters reported that the English steamer Willenshall has been sunk. The Swedish steamer Bertha and the Netherlands ironclad Benula were also sunk by German U-boats. The Paris correspondent of Novoya Vremya described the mood of Paris. Everything is expensive. Writing paper is in short supply. People have to write on brown wrapping paper. Meandering Moik says, yes, Lloyd's of London, thank you. There are few foreigners and young French people on the streets. French circles are convinced that top continue the war will lead to a horrible sacrifice. Paris automotive transportation is limited. Drivers demand inflated prices from their passengers. The rich are ruined with insufficient income to support the cost of their houses and possessions. On the back pages are death notices. The hero's death for Kaiser and Reich, for the trumpeter of the reserve, Willie Thurn. In the fulfillment of his duty, we honor his memory. In the name of the battery From, lieutenant and battery leader, remembrance on the 17th of June, after a short stay in the hospital, Sergeant Edmund von Bredenbach died of black water fever. What the hell is that? We mourn a comrade who often especially went forward against the enemy. Okay, I'm going to stop this. Let's go. We still got a bit. Lloyd's of London says, we got 5 minutes. Lloyd's of London was an insurance agency, and they also used rate ships for naval prizemen. Really? Holy F. That is, thanks for, that is, Jesus, Murphy. That's something I never in a million years would have thought of seeing. Okay, now what did I want to show? Let's go to, do I have the Callendale thing here? Very quickly. Yes. We can go to 13th minute. I don't know if it's the smartest thing to be showing, but, well, you know what? Hold on here. Let me present the screen almost. Ooh, you can see Meandering Mike on the right-hand side here. Hold on, because it's obviously it puts in my recommendation-y type things. Brian R. Smith says, insured the Titanic at a high loss. Did they really? Holy Jesus. So hold on here. I want to get to the, let's go to here first very quickly. And remember, it's the 15th second. So give me a second here. I popped him in. The submarine, its commander. Just there. And hopefully, please let me know if you guys can hear it. Meandering Mike says special signal boost this time. Here we go. Black water fever is a complication of malaria, Tolemykus says, infection in which red blood cells burst in the bloodstream. Jesus. Releasing hemoglobin directly into the blood vessels, into the urine, frequently leading to kidney failure. Holy F. Okay, so here you go. Hopefully you guys can hear this. I just wanted you guys to see Captain Koenig very quickly. And actually, mostly for Charles Latora, because him and I seem to have a little soft spot or a little interest for the Deutschland submarine here.
Points of a German submarine or its commander. Its periscope an evil eye. The submarine was the scourge of the sea.
There you go. All right, I don't want to get into craziness here. We have 3 minutes. Darn it. Okay, we're not going to show. We'll talk about maybe the we'll talk about the Callendale review at some other time. But how about we'll end it with this little tiddly bit. Oh, we didn't even do the darn David Osaluga thing, but it's not the end of the world. So this book here, hold on here. I got to put it in the thing. And there, you guys can see that. Good. So this book here I picked up yesterday with Zoe Dufour. Actually, we went off to Valley Village and I snagged this. It seems like a textbook type of a thing, but I'm going to stop the screen because I'm going to show you a bit of the picture that or scan that I did of it. Because I just thought I don't really believe I don't completely agree with what the guy says. Did I pop it in here though? It doesn't look like I did. Yes, I did. Thank God. Lord have mercy. Okay. So, anyways, I'm lucky for me. The previous reader went like a lunatic with the highlighter, but doesn't seem to have been interested in World War I. So the section World War I is free of highlighting. I'm like, oh goody. So hold on here. I'm going to put it in there, and then we're going to go off to very quickly. And I'm just going to show this super duper quick, just because I thought I'm not really sure if I agree with what this person says here at the bottom, and maybe you guys do. It was a war that no European leader clearly and consciously sought. If European leaders had known in 1914 what they knew in 1918, the war almost certainly would have been avoided. but very few in 1914 were able to correctly predict the course the war would take and momentous changes that would come in its wake. I don't, you know what? I don't really agree with. I'm not 100% on board with that. Just due to the fact I'm thinking about Romania and whatnot, and then coming into the war. I mean, it's been going on for, you know what I mean? You're entering your third year come August 4th for the British. Corvinus Wargaming says the British and French had motivation against Germany. Yeah. I guess it comes into that other thing we were talking about, that YouTube thing that I was mentioning, which a few weeks ago, or maybe even a couple of months ago, that very provocative one I found where they were like, it was the war justified. And I was like, what kind of topic or thing for that is? But they meant from their point of view. Anyways, that's it. Corvinus Wargaming says Austria's opposition against Serbia. All right, because we're now at the hour mark. I hope this went well. Thank you so very much yet again for spending an hour with me talking about the Great War, sharing and getting me engaged about this. I think it's wonderful. Thank you so much. Like I've said before, it really does help motivate me to get going for the remainder of the week. So I'm just going to go and grab now. I'm going to go and pop off my microphone. Yet again, I just want to say that I hope you guys have a great remainder of your weekend, a great week, and I hope to see you guys next week. Let me get things set up here, and then off we go. View the playlist, and number 83. My God, you know what? I didn't even check to see if it's working. Well, we're about to find out. Brian R. Smith says, nice show. I love the chat engagement. Yeah. 100%. Oh my God. 100%, my friend. 100%. Okay. So thank you. I'll see you. Hopefully I'll see you in a week. Okay. Hold on here. All right. And I'm going to pop my microphone off. All right, the war summary for July 21st to the 27th, 1916. After thorough artillery preparation, the French dashed forward yesterday all along their front in the valley of the Somme. North of the river, they secured valuable new positions by driving the Germans to the east of the narrow gauge railway that runs from Combles to Cléry, a hamlet on the bank of the river. The capture of this railway and to the road to the east of it deprives the enemy of a valuable system of communication and renders Combles, a considerable town northeast of Haudecourt, well nigh untenable. A combined attack upon Combles from the British sweeping around from the north and the French from the south will speedily follow yesterday's successful operations north of the Somme. While the French were moving forward yesterday morning in this region, the British were battling with the utmost stubbornness to eject the Germans from the positions in the vicinity of Longueval, recaptured during Wednesday's counterattack. The Deville Wood, which has been filled with German reinforcements, was the scene of fierce fighting, which still continued at midnight when General Haig's report was sent out. While this part of the British army was fighting its way easterly through the wood, another facing to the north assailed the German lines between Bazentin and Longueval and advanced about 1,000 yards in the face of stubborn opposition. On this curving front, north of the Somme, several 100,000 men have been engaged yesterday, and the result has been extended to the grip of the Allied army on the ridges extending from Auvelay to Combles, which command the low-lying region to the east, towards which the French and British are striving. An entirely separate battle on a correspondingly large scale took place in the region south of the Somme. There, the French attacked on the 6-mile front between Bellois to Vermont-de-Viers. In the morning, the greatest pressure was exerted against the northern part of the enemy's position, and all his first-line trenches were carried there. In the afternoon, the blows fell on the southern part, and the midnight Paris report states that an attack this afternoon enabled us to capture completely the first-line German positions from Estrée to Vermont-de-Viers. During the fighting today, we captured on both sides of the Somme about 2,900 prisoners, including 30 officers,
besides 3 guns, about 30 machine guns, and a great quantity of war material. The resumption of the French advance on the Somme is recorded in the Berlin bulletins in such a way as to lead the German people to believe their troops victoriously held their positions. 3 attacks in the sector of Estrée and Soicourt were said to have been repulsed. The French were also repulsed in bayonet fighting. Berlin's last paragraph, however, prepares the Germans for another admission of retreat with the words, "The enemy artillery is developing the greatest strength on both banks of the Somme." What that greatest strength means to the Germans is shown by the figures contained in a diary belonging to a captured German officer. It states that a single Bavarian reserve regiment opposed to the British at Montauban suffered 3,000 casualties out of a total of 3,500 men. The 190th Regiment lost 950 out of 1,100 men. The German Verduns along the Somme are falling before the attack of the Allies, but the French Verdun remains impregnable. The defenders yesterday assumed the offensive in the Fleury-Thiaumont sector, drove back the Germans, captured a powerful fieldwork, and took 300 prisoners, including 8 officers. At the same time, French aviators dropped many shells upon the railway stations far behind the German lines north of Verdun, where the enemy's reserves are encamped. Altogether, yesterday was a good day for the Allies of the West. The operations in Galicia have been interrupted by great floods that have rendered the movement of troops in the valley of the Dniester almost impossible. To the north, in Volhynia, von Lingensen continues his stubborn opposition to the Russian advance. The Teutons won a bit of ground southwest of Lutsk, but in the Sokol sector, after a brief assault, which resulted in ejecting the Russians from their advanced lines, Berlin says the German troops recaptured to their positions according to their plan. It would seem that, despite the presence of 250,000 German reinforcements on the front, von Lingensen can do no more than hold back precariously the oncoming Slavic wave. In the Caucasus, the army of the Grand Duke Nicholas continues to advance along a wide front, while on the Persian border it falls back. The reason for this is probably trouble behind, as well as strong Turkish pressure from Mesopotamia. Petrograd tells of the Russians meeting and defeating near Ispahan, in the heart of Persia, a considerable aggregation of Persian nomads who were hostile to us. Baghdad has been saved for the time by the second anti-Russian outbreak in Persia. The relations between Italy and Germany have become much more strained during the past few days, and an open breach is not at all impossible. For some time, it has been believed in Rome that the Trentino Drive was planned in Berlin, not in Vienna, and that Italy is regarded by the Germans with hatred, scarcely less intense than that exhibited towards Great Britain. The Italian government has now taken steps to extend to Germans living and doing business in Italy the war measures formerly applicable only to Austrians. Among other things prohibited are recourse to the law courts and the transfer of property. Germany stood the seizing of her ships in Italian ports, but measures depriving Germans of recourse to Italian courts will almost certainly be regarded in Berlin as hostile and result in a German declaration of war. Perhaps this is what Italy wants. There is trouble, too, between Sweden and the belligerents of both groups. It is asserted that German and Russian warships frequently violate the neutrality of Swedish waters and carry on warlike operations within the 3-mile limit. Swedish newspapers are angry and say, "We are not another Greece. The Swedes were supposed to be anti-Russian when the war broke out, and the court and aristocracy are perhaps still of that mind. The great mass of people, however, are determined not to be drawn into the war, and they are strong enough to enforce their views on the government." Relative calm was reported from the battlefields of the Somme yesterday following the fierce fighting of Thursday. The combined advance of the French and British on that day, which had carried the British upon the north side of the wedge, thrust into the German lines as far as the wood of Fourreau, to the northeast of Bazentin, and the French well past the first-line trenches of the enemy south of the Somme, was followed during the night by determined counterattacks. The endeavor to recapture the lost German trenches and fieldwork south of the Somme, on which the enemy had expended almost 2 years of labor, was fruitless. The French were on the alert, and turned such a volume of artillery and machine gun fire upon the battalion which led the assault that it was thrown back in disorder after suffering very great losses. The failure of this attack so discouraged the Germans that the French were left to consolidate their gains without further molestation. The midnight French report was one of the shortest on record and merely stated that there is nothing to add to this forenoon's communique. The British battlefront north of the river was the scene of a more serious struggle. There, the Germans, after being turned out of Fourreau Wood, directed an intense artillery fire upon the wood using gas shells. Following this up, they secured a foothold in the northern part, and amid the shattered tree trunks, a stubbornly fought engagement continued throughout the night. The report of General Haig issued late last night says there is no change in the situation. During yesterday, the Germans made a bombing attack on the Leipzig salient and succeeded at one point in entering the British front trenches. They were immediately driven out. In the aerial combats of the day, the Germans lost 5 machines and the British only 1. The German official report makes a good deal of the engagement at Fromelles on Thursday, referred to by Sir Douglas Haig as an important raid on the enemy's trenches carried out on a front of 2 miles in which the Australian troops took part and about 140 Germans were captured. Berlin asserts that this attack resulted in the loss by the attackers of more than 2,000 men killed and nearly 500 made prisoners. The statement is probably a lie. The Germans have no accurate means of knowing how many Australian dead lie in front of their positions. There is no indication that the affair was more than what Sir Douglas Haig says, an important raid intended to convince the enemy that it would be dangerous to strip his trenches of men for the reinforcement of the hard-pressed Germans engaged in the Battle of the Somme. Berlin also belittles the progress made in the attacks of Thursday and tells of the capture of 1,200 prisoners during the day's operations and the repulse of 200,000 British and French troops who took part in them. The German people may begin to consult the map and see for themselves what is happening. I'm just going to say this. From what I know about the Battle of Fromelles, it was a disaster for the Australians. They got their arses kicked bad. They had to travel across, I think, nearly a mile of flat no man's land. It was not good. Remember, fact check, but I'm just saying. So when you see here about the statement is probably a lie that the Germans, I don't think it was. Anyways, we'll figure that out for next week. Another advance of General Brusilov's army on the Styr is recorded in official dispatches from Petrograd and admitted by the Austrian War Office. The battle took place on the Styr near its confluence with the Lipa, and the result was the dislodging of the Austrians from their positions at Wirben, possession of the crossings of the Styr, and the capture on another part of the field of over 1,600 prisoners, including many officers. The official statement speaks of the Austrians posted on the heights near the town of Berchtesgaden as being partially to surrender. A dispatch from Rome, speaking of the effect of the Russian advance towards Brody, says that the town has been hastily evacuated, the inhabitants fleeing in confusion in the belief that the Russians would soon be in occupation. Brody is 55 miles from Lemberg on the main line between that city and Rovno. The Teuton losses in the desperate battles of the past 10 days on the Volhynian front have been great. A correspondent of the London Times who is with Brusilov's army says that according to prisoners, the enemy's losses during the last 10 days have been extremely heavy. From 75,000 to 100,000 this week would be no exaggeration. This estimate, of course, includes prisoners, and it must be remembered that one day's haul totaled over 13,000. The Second Austro-German Army of Volhynia is suffering the fate that overtook its predecessor in June, and general retirement to prepare positions east of Kovel and of Lemberg seems inevitable. The Grand Duke Nicholas reports the capture of Gumish-Kane, an important town on the northern slope of the Black Coast Range, 45 miles southeast of Trebizond. The town lies on the caravan road from Trebizond to Erzurum, and the supplies required for the advance of the Russian army to Erzingen and Sivas should be available soon. The season in which campaigning is possible at the high altitudes of the Armenian mountains is short, and the Grand Duke may be depended upon to keep his transport wagons on the move. Once more, the brunt of the fighting on the Western Front falls to the army of General Haig. It was reported late last night that the British had attacked early yesterday all along the front from Pozières to Guillemont, and that the battle had reached a state of intense violence. The capture of the village of Pozières was the immediate objective of the British troops, and their territorials and Australians launched an assault shortly after midnight. They penetrated the village, which was held in force by Germans well supplied with machine guns. The engagement continued throughout the day, and late last night, it was reported that farther advances had been made in the neighborhood of Pozières and that a number of prisoners had been taken. On the rest of the front, there's been no definite progress. At one time on Sunday morning, the British had recaptured the whole of Longueval, but the enemy, counterattacking, regained the northern end of the village. Similar conditions exist on the outskirts of Guillemont, houses there having already twice changed hands. The Germans are resisting this northward extension of the British forward movement with the utmost tenacity, believing that if the villages now under fire are surrendered, the road to Bapaume will be opened and a very dangerous situation will be created for the German troops who hold Thiepval and other points to the west of the line of the British advance. On the French front, there have been no infantry movements except south of Soicourt, where the Germans made a night attack against new French positions, but were repulsed without coming to grips. A dispatch from Paris summing up the results of the drive of the Allies in the valley of the Somme to date states that in addition to the territory recovered, the British and French troops have taken 6,333 prisoners, or 36,000, sorry, and have captured 140 guns, 40 bomb throwers, and several hundred machine guns. Very great aerial activity is reported from French headquarters. The railway stations to the rear of the German lines in northern France have been bombarded with the utmost vigor. Thionville has no less than 115 great shells dropped upon it. Fires have been caused at the stations of Arnaudville, Lyon, and Saint-Erne, all points of great importance in the moving of troops. The French aviators are going far afield, and on Saturday morning, 12 of them bombarded the city of Mülheim in Baden. Hold on, I gotta scroll down here. On their return, the aviators fought a battle with a German aerial flotilla, 4 German machines and 2 French being out of action. It was interesting to read that they used a flotilla for that. I just found that interesting. The Cross of the Steer by the Russians was a notable victory. At the headquarters of the Russian army, it is reported that the Teutons in the battle lost a third of the total force engaged, which was estimated at about 150,000. Despite this loss of 50,000, the enemy is still bringing up reinforcements, and his resistance, it is stated, cannot be regarded as finally broken. The fighting on the lower Vina to the southwest of Riga is regarded in Petrograd as of considerable importance. The Russian troops penetrated the German first line at several points. The advance seems to be directed against Tukum, the possession of which by the Germans is vital to the holding of western Kurland. At one point on this part of the line, it is stated the Russians advanced 15 miles to the west. Unofficial dispatches state that Kumarn was captured, but nothing warranting this statement is contained in the official report. Heavy fighting is also reported from the vicinity of Smorgon, 50 miles east of Vilna. There, the Russians took some ground on Saturday, and yesterday the Germans counterattacked with great vigor. They were compelled to retire after suffering heavy losses from the Russian artillery. The operations of the Russian army of Bukovina have been seriously impeded in the Carpathians by rain and snow. In spite of these handicaps, General Lechitsky's army goes forward. Last night, his troops were only 4 miles from the summit of the mountains and from the Hungarian frontier. Moving out from Delatin, the Slavs have taken 483 prisoners, 3 cannon and 4 machine guns. The Austrians in the southern Galician sector seem to be in entirely insufficient numbers to check the Russian advance. Operations in the Caucasus, after a long drag, proceed with speed and success. The Grand Duke Nicholas reports that to the south of the Black Sea, his army has effected a considerable advance. In the region south of Trebizond, a number of important points have been taken, including Aldesi. This was the only place of importance on the caravan road from Trebizond to Erzurum not held by the Russian forces. Its capture will ensure an uninterrupted route for supplies from the Black Sea coast to the valley of the Western Euphrates. It is announced that in the advance towards Erzingen, Russian troops have crossed the Euphrates and are now advancing along the northern side of the river. The official dispatch dealing with these actions announces that the Russians have taken a great number of prisoners. The Turks stand up better on the Persian border, where to the east of Mosul, the presence of large Turkish forces is noted in the official dispatches. Clearly, the Turkish strategy contemplated a drive upon the main Russian advance through northwestern Persia in the direction of the Caucasus, with the expectation that Russians, in order to check this movement, would cease their offensive on the Black Sea coast and in central Armenia. The Grand Duke Nicholas seems to be paying very little attention to the Turkish move in northern Mesopotamia. He is content to let the Turks dissipate their energy in regions remote from their base of supplies, while he strikes towards Sivas on the other important points on the way to Constantinople. Italian reports are most optimistic. Gains are announced on the Pozina front and on the Sette Comuni plateau, where the Italian Alpine troops made a brilliant advance. In the Dolomites also, the Italians have captured some strong positions, taken 142 prisoners, and a considerable quantity of arms and ammunition. The withdrawal of Austrian troops for use on the Eastern Front has entirely relieved the pressure upon the Italian forces in the Trentino and permitted the resumption of the steady advance which has been in progress up till May. Operations in German East Africa are rapidly coming to a head. General Smuts officially reports the occupation of a number of important points on the western shore of Lake Tanganyika, including all the stations on the Usumbara Railway, an extension of the German Central Railway system. The columns of invasion are now converging on this railway, and although the Germans will have the advantage at first because of their ability to concentrate their troops along the line, the railway will be broken speedily by General Smuts' mounted troops. After the conquest of the small part of the colony remaining in the hands of the Germans will be comparatively easy. Turkish troops from Syria are again, that's just, I shouldn't do that. It's like, because I've got hindsight. It's like, oh boy, aren't you clever? Turkish troops from Syria are again assembling east of the Suez Canal. British mounted forces are in touch with the enemy. The Turks have their hands full in Arabia just now and have no men to spare for operations against Egypt. The Arabs who have been besieging Medina have occupied most of the city and are now tackling the barracks in which the garrison holds out, have inflicted very heavy losses on the Turks. The Sharif of Mecca seems to be the recognized leader of the revolt and the ruler of that part of Arabia, now free from Turkish misrule. The lesson of this battle is that we have simply to press on with all our resources and with the material at our command, and victory will be ours, says Mr. Lloyd George, the British War Minister, has no doubt at all as to the result of the war. He feels confident that victory is assured and it will come in a few months. Moreover, he seems to share the view so strongly expressed by Sir Douglas Haig that the war will be won on the Western Front. There are signs that less than a month of steady hammering at the enemy's positions in the valley of the Somme has caused him great anxiety and forced him to rearrange his strength all along the front. The attack of the Allies, which has begun on the Somme upon the 1st of July, probably saved Verdun. That I found really fascinating. The German efforts there are no longer formidable. Berlin announces that the Brandenburgers, now opposing the British at Longueval, are the same troops that captured Fort Douaumont. This is the first official admission that German troops have been withdrawn from the Verdun front to strengthen the lines in the northwestern France. The Franco-British operations have thus accomplished an important purpose in relieving the pressure upon General Neville's heroic troops. As the Battle of the Somme develops, more of the enemy's men and guns must be thrown into it, until eventually there will be no greater activity along the Verdun front than at any other point along the lines. The French are no longer content with the holding of their positions at Verdun. They are beginning to shove the Germans back from the danger spots close to the Souville lines. The Paris Midnight Report states that after a spirited engagement, French infantry yesterday occupied a redoubt immediately west of Thiaumont Work, taking 5 machine guns and about 40 prisoners. During the past 10 days in various small affairs along the Verdun front, the French have captured over 800 prisoners and recovered quite a bit of lost ground. On the Somme, the French army still await a farther eastward sweep of the British before pushing on towards Péronne. South of the river, an enemy battery was taken yesterday by the French, who report also that more than 60 German machine guns have been captured during the last 4 days. General Haig's latest report adds little to earlier statements that the bulk of the village of Pozières on the high road from Albert to Beaupont had been captured and held by the Australians. Fighting continued during the day in the village, and the number of prisoners taken by the Australians reached a total of 6 officers and 145 men. Elsewhere, there was considerable artillery activity by both sides, but there were no infantry engagements. The big feature of the operations on the Eastern Front is the Russian advance across the Carpathians from the headwaters of the Pruth by way of the Kirle-Ba Pass. 2 days ago, the Russians announced that their movement into the mountains from Delatin had begun and had progressed as far as Tatarov. Snow and rain were reported to be impeding the Russian advance, but these conditions did not long continue, for Vienna, under a Sunday dateline, admits that south of Tatarov, under the threat of a strong Russian advance, we withdrew our troops fighting on the Magura toward the main ridge of the Carpathians. From this ridge, the Russians are now engaged in driving the Austrians. They will advance, if successful, to the southwest along the railway, which follows the windings of the river Theiss towards Maramoros-Sziget, I guess, and an important Hungarian town occupied during the former invasion. It is this threat against Hungary that has led to the calling out en masse of all Austro-Hungarian subjects capable of bearing arms, and to the closing of the frontiers so that the movements of troop trains may proceed undisturbed. The retention of southern Poland and all of Galicia west of Lemberg will be of little advantage to the Teutons if, while they repel the invaders north of the Carpathians, the Slavic flood pours over the mountains and inundates the plains of Hungary. The Russian invasion will assuredly force the Austrians to give ground in the north. The Germans will be unable to come to the relief of the Austro-Hungarian army as they did in May 1915, when Hungary was threatened by the former Russian advance. The great guns that were then used so freely in driving the Slavs out of Galicia are needed now on the Somme, at Verdun, in the Trentino, on the Isonzo, and on that part of the Eastern Front defended by the Germans. The Kaiser's troops are barely holding their own along the Vina and on the Vilna front, while in Volhynia, they and the Austrians continue to yield ground before the advance of Brusilov's armies. The defense of Hungary must be entrusted to the middle-aged and elderly men long past their fighting days, who are now being called to the colors and who must take the field with insufficient equipment and munitions. Under the conditions, a rapid advance of the Russians into Hungary would not be a surprise. The Russian drive towards Erzingen in western Armenia continues unchecked, despite strong Turkish counterattacks. The main advance is along the north bank of the Euphrates, and the Russians are reported to be only 15 miles east of the city. The cavalry of the Grand Duke is rendering valuable service in pushing the advance. Erzingen is one of the most important caravan routes in Asiatic Turkey, that from railhead at Angora to Erzurum. German military writers state that the present struggle on the Western Front cannot continue long by reason of the great losses suffered by both armies. They believe that the Franco-British advance will be brought to a standstill, as all other offensive operations have been on the Western Front during the past 20 months, because no general is prepared to pay the price in men's lives that must be paid to break the opposing lines. This is not the British view. I found that a weird thing to say after that, because it's like, does that mean the British are prepared to pay the price? General Haig continues to push along day by day, making gains of more or less importance against a constantly growing German army, which is now many more heavy guns at its disposal than when the struggle began. No estimate of the losses on either side is obtainable. The London correspondent of the New York Tribune lifts a corner of the censorship curtain when he states that the casualty lists published in London on Monday contained nearly 6,000 names of officers and men killed, wounded, and missing. It is added that not since the stubborn fighting of the original advance on July 1st have so many names appeared as on Monday. The British losses may reasonably be estimated as averaging 4,000 a day. The Germans, it is believed, are suffering quite as heavily, for they are counterattacking continuously and with great vigor along the British front. On that part of the battle line where the French are opposing the Germans, the losses are not so heavy in killed and wounded, but for some reason the Germans there surrender more freely than they do to the British. Paris reports the capture of 26,000 prisoners, but this probably includes those taken on the British front. The losses in killed and wounded in the Somme sector will probably average about 1,500 men each for the French and Germans. On the entire 25-mile battlefront, therefore, extending from Pozières to Vermont-de-Viers, the losses may reasonably be estimated at 5,500 Germans, 4,000 British, and 1,500 French daily, which is 1 to 1. Good Lord. These fearful totals show that on the Somme there is being waged a far more sanguinary struggle even than around Verdun. Can the Germans continue indefinitely to make good their wastage of over 160,000 men a month? Will the Allies compel them to do so by persisting in their attacks? An illustration of the straits to which the Teutons are reduced for men is contained in a Rotterdam dispatch stating that Germany is about to call to the colors lads who will be 19 and 18 years of age sometime this year. Many of these immature lads have already volunteered. Those who have not done so will now be compelled to serve. Another evidence of almost unendurable strain is seen in a report current in Berlin that Turkish troops will soon be fighting in Galicia against the Russians. The extraordinary change in the general situation since the Russians began their forward movement early in June on the Volhynian front fully warrants the bitter cry of the Frankfurter Zeitung that Germany is a besieged fortress. On the British front, in the Somme Valley, and especially at Pozières, there was fierce hand-to-hand fighting all of yesterday. The Australians, during the night of Monday, had strengthened their hold on Pozières. The Germans yesterday afternoon launched an infantry attack on the village from the northeast, but they were driven back by the British artillery. The intensity of the artillery fire presages another general British attack to the east of Longueval. There were no incidents of importance on the French front. General Foch is undoubtedly waiting for the capture of Guillemont by the British before he pushes his advance towards Péronne along the north bank of the Somme. The advance of General Shakarov's army, one of the group of armies operating under Brusilov's command, into northern Galicia is reported officially from Petrograd. This is the army that caused a panic in the Galician border city of Brody a week ago by its rapid advance. That advance was stayed temporarily at the river Sloniavaki on the Galician frontier, but after a furious battle, the Russians on Monday secured command of the crossings and continued their march towards Lemberg. During the day's operations, 1,000 prisoners were taken. 4 guns were also captured and were at once turned against the retreating Austro-Germans. The onward sweep of the Grand Duke Nicholas continues in the Armenian sphere of operations. His troops are approaching Erzingen from the north and the east, and the Turks are retreating in disorder. The Russian advance guards were only 10 miles from the city yesterday, and the Turks were reported to be gathering up all sorts of provisions. That may mean that they are preparing for a siege, but it's much more likely to mean evacuation. The capture of Erzingen by the army of the Grand Duke Nicholas is an event of the greatest importance. It was one of the chief military depots of Asiatic Turkey, although not a fortress city like Erzurum. At Erzingen, for some time, the Turks had enormous quantities of supplies and munitions for their armies to the east and north. These stores have, for the most part, been removed to Sivas, an important military center 125 miles to the west. The advance of the Russians since January has enabled them to occupy an area extending 150 miles west from the frontier of Transcaucasia and over 200 miles south from the Black Sea. Their progress has not been delayed by Turkish counterattacks, vigorous though they have been, but by transportation difficulties. There are no railways in this region occupied by the Russians, and the mountain roads have not been constructed to carry the heavy artillery that has facilitated the capture of the Turkish strongholds in Armenia. Progress should be more rapid now, for the possession of Trebizond and Erzingen and the control of the Black Sea will enable the Russians to ship in their supplies and munitions by water to Trebizond and over the passes of the coast range to Erzingen, which will now become the Grand Duke's forward base. The next move of the greatest strategists the war has ever revealed, oh brother, will be awaited with much interest. The obvious thing is a continuation of the advance west through the passes of the Karabel Mountains to Sivas. That way lies Constantinople, the glittering prize for which the Romanov prince is striving. But the Grand Duke Nicholas did not very often do the obvious thing during his remarkable campaigns in Poland and Galicia. And he may decide the unexpected is likely to prove successful in Asia Minor as well as in Europe. If the reader will glance at a map, and damn it, I wanted to do this too, maybe next or figure out at some point. Yeah, I wanted to do a little pop-up. It's too late now. If the reader will glance at a map, because it would have been nice. If the reader will, I mean, because the person's saying to do this. If the reader will glance at a map of Asia Minor, he will see, they will see, screw you, will see near the northeast corner of the Mediterranean the location of the port of Alexandretta. Had the plans of Germany for commercial supremacy in the Near East been brought to fruition, as they might have been but for the war, this port would have become the western terminus of the Baghdad Railway, connecting the Persian Gulf with the Mediterranean. The railway, of course, connects also with the Turkish state railways of Asia Minor, and there would have been a direct railed highway from Constantinople to Baghdad. But the Germans had no intention of hauling goods by rail any farther than was necessary to reach the open waters of the Mediterranean. A Russian advance southwest along the valley of the Euphrates and thence by the valley of the Pyramus would encounter few natural obstacles. Reaching the Mediterranean near Alexandretta, the Grand Duke would cut Asiatic Turkey in two, and were he able to hold the line from Trebizond through Erzingen to the Mediterranean, the Turkish armies of Syria, Arabia, and Mesopotamia, cut off from supplies and succor, would not be able to keep the field for a month. From Erzingen to the Mediterranean is at 250 miles, a distance that can be traversed by the Russians at their present rate of progress by October. A drive towards the Mediterranean has no doubt been carefully considered by the Grand Duke. He must soon decide whether success is more likely to be achieved by attempting it rather than by forcing his way west towards Constantinople. The diversion of Turkish troops to the Galician front may play an important part in determining the course of the war in Asiatic Turkey. If immediate evidence is available showing that the Russians have the strength and the will to strike at Constantinople, leaving in their rear the Turkish armies of Syria and Mesopotamia, these armies may be hurriedly withdrawn from the remote corners of the empire and concentrated in the mountainous regions of Asiatic Turkey to the southeast of Constantinople. The Turks are spread out very thinly over a vast extent of territory, and the disaster that has befallen them in Arabia may be repeated any day in Syria and Mesopotamia, where only fear keeps the Bedouin in subjection. Great events may well follow the fall of Erzingen, since it once more demonstrates the inability of the Turks to hold their own against the Russian invader, and lessens the danger to the disaffected tribesmen in Mesopotamia and Syria of throwing off the Turkish yoke. Berlin definitely admits the loss of the village of Pozières. The British office makes public a German divisional order issued at Contalmaison on July 11th, in which it is stated that the conversion of villages into strong points is of the greatest importance. Such villages are Pozières, Contalmaison, Bazentin-le-Petit, Bazentin-le-Grand, and Longueval. With justifiable satisfaction, the British War Office points out that with the capture of Pozières, the last of the villages mentioned, has fallen into our hands. There are no other positions as strong as Pozières between the British lines and Bapaume. Martinpuich is the next village stronghold to be tackled. After that, the road lies downhill all the way, and the British artillery supremacy will greatly facilitate the advance. The French are inactive on the Somme, save in the vicinity of Estrée, where their lines were pushed forward about 150 meters by the capture of a fortified house. In Champagne, there was a violent artillery engagement, but elsewhere all was calm. If Germany is preparing for a great counterstroke at some point on the Western Front, as reports of troop train movements through Belgium are believed to indicate, the secret of the point to be attacked is well guarded. The coming storm sends out no advance courier. The advance of Sakharov into Galicia from the north continues. The Austrians admit retirement on the Slovoka before the superior pressure of the enemy, and another defeat northeast of Brody in this curious phraseology. Near Radzilov, some stubborn Russian attacks brought to the enemy only unimportant advantages. The Austrian War Office denies the Russian claim that 260,000 prisoners have been captured on the Eastern Front during June and July. Vienna thinks 100,000 would be about right and says that there were not 260,000 Austrians on that part of the front to be attacked. The Austrian people are scarcely gudgeons. I'm going to have to find out what the hell that word. I've never seen that word before. Enough to swallow that sort of bait. The capture of 100,000 men out of a total of 260,000 could not have been accomplished without killing or wounding as many more, which would have been practically wiped out the Austrian army of Volhynia. When the Russian attack began, it was generally estimated that there were about 750,000 Teutons in the trenches south of the Pripyat marshes. The Austrian lines, then held over a front of 300 miles, are now far to the east of the Russian advance. The statement that the trenches were manned by less than 1,000 men per mile is lying so open and unashamed as to be scarcely worthy of contradiction. There are probably still 300,000 or 400,000 Austrians on the front south of the Pripyat. And here we go. Italian progress in the Dolomites begins to worry the Austrians, who are counterattacking there with great determination. And I hope that went well, and I hope to see you next week.